But there is some sort of innate connection between the listener and the artist through their voice, through the music,
Yeah,
and through all
completely,
those things, isn't there? And it's a
completely.
beautiful thing.
But it's not. I don't think it's a conscious thing. You know that I've been in the room where people have said to the singer, "Look, do it with more, passion in that," and it always sounds terrible. Just do it. I always think just do it. That's how you're going to get a good vocal or a good solo or good anything. Just do it. And if just doing it isn't good enough, you're not good enough because you're not an actor here. It's not acting. It's just doing.
So you talked about McCartney earlier, or you mentioned McCartney earlier. What sort of remit do you get when you work with someone who's got that legacy? I mean, there probably is no greater legacy in the world from a living artist than McCartney. So how how do you, in a sense, contribute to someone with that sort of massive legacy? How does that operate?
Well, I think it's the same with anyone who's uh, what's the word? Successful, big time. I don't know, whatever you call it. You can't think about that. And for sure, McCartney wanted Trevor or Trevor's team or us or whatever it was because he wanted what we did. So there wasn't much of a question of that. That's what he wanted. So we didn't go there going, "What do you want?" We went there going, "Well, this is what we do," because that's what he wanted us to do, what we do. Of course, it got reined in because he has an opinion and an approach. So the whole thing, it kind of worked on one song really well.
What song was that?
It's called Rough Ride.
Okay, why did it work well? Tell me.
It was the first thing we did. And uh, it, I don't know why. Why did it work well? Trevor, I'd set up in the control room. I had all this gear. I'd just bought a whole bunch of computers and synthesizers, and as I was setting up, Trevor said, "I'll pop upstairs with Macca and see what he's got." And he came down and said, found a song that will work with a. I had a drum box and I'd programmed this rhythm in it, and he said, "It'll work with that rhythm you programmed." I went, "Oh, okay." And I found the rhythm, played it, and Macca goes, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we'll work with that." So I had the drum box. He picked up a guitar, and involuntarily, I started playing the bass on a keyboard. Not that I'm a great keyboard player, but I had this amazing bass sound I'd sort of created, set it up. Trevor had a keyboard. So Macca's playing guitar, Trevor's playing keyboard, I'm playing bass and rhythm. And we just kept going through the song and it sounded good. Sounded really good. Empty, but quirky and enjoyable. And I think all that came out. There were loads of details that happened. It's boring, but I thought it worked well, that one. Have you heard it?
Yes, I have actually. Yeah, I mean that was it's in Flowers in the Dirt, wasn't it?
Flowers
So
in the Dirt.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And before we go on with the interview with Stephen Lipson, please subscribe to the channel because every time I upload a new video, then you'll be the first to hear. Now, stick with it because we're going to hear more about his career and particularly about the film scores and Hans Zimmer. You've sort of transitioned into film, um, in the last years. What is the difference in terms of producing music for a film than actually, than producing records? What do you have to think about that is different?
Uh, in a way, it's it's the complete opposite. In a way, because with records, there's a structure and there are sounds that people tend to use, and it's very important that it pops out. It's got to be. You're competing with other music that's compressed and hard and bright, and whereas with film, you're serving the vocal is the dialogue, and the structure is determined by the picture. And what was the other thing? It's sort of, and so the sound can't get in the way of anything. You've got sound effects and dialogue to deal with. So I completely messed up the first thing I was asked to do, which was The Dark Knight Rises. I for some reason, Hans Zimmer asked me to mix his score for The Dark Knight Rises. And mixing, I never considered myself to be a mixer as such. I mixed all my own records, but that was just because that was the end of making a record. It wasn't because I was a mixer. And he asked me to do it. And I said to him, I'm confident in my ignorance. So I took up the challenge and messed it up completely because I mixed it like a record. I made the top line of the music too loud, and it was all too hard and bright. And Chris Nolan rejected everything I did for what they call the first reel. It was about 20 minutes of music I'd mixed, and he rejected the whole lot. It was explained to me what I'd done wrong. And from that point on, I started learning. I lost that night, that sort of stupid know-it-all approach to things that maybe we all have at some point. I thought I knew what I was doing, and that taught me that I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and I had to learn very quickly how to transition from records to film.
So Hans Zimmer, had you met him through Trevor because of the bubbles and
I met him in 1984 at Psalm East. He appeared and we had a laugh. I was kind of jokingly rude to him, and I have this thing. I don't know if it's true. You'll have an opinion, I'm sure, on this. I always think the first 5 seconds, which is a bit of a generalization, but the first 5 seconds when you meet someone, you're setting out your stall of how your relationship is going to be. That moment when you meet them is the moment that determines, to a large extent, how your relationship with someone will be. If you're, you're forever going to be a bit like that. If you're on a level with them straight off, you'll probably be on a level with them forevermore. I don't know if it's true. It's just a thing that has stayed with me. And with Hans, when I met him, I made a jokingly disparaging remark about something. The first time I met him, he was just a jobbing session musician at the time. And because of that, our relationship has always been, even though he's Hans Zimmer and I have inordinate respect for him, but I don't feel the need to kowtow or not tell him how I feel. Whereas most people in his orbit are very circumspect with their opinions. I don't feel the need to be. I can tell him stuff, happy for him to ignore it. It's not a problem. But I feel I can say what I want to say to him. And he says he appreciates that.
I'm sure he does, because I think it's refreshing. I think a lot of people who are ultimately very, very, very successful end up having yes people around them, and it's a dangerous thing.
Very.
And that's always a really hard thing. Well, I just want to end with saying something that I feel, and that's there are so many records that you've been involved on, from the Pet Shop Boys to Annie Lennox, to Frankie Goes to Hollywood, stuff that has meant so much in my life. I just want to thank you for your contribution to popular music that has really been something in my life and something very important. So,
that's nice.
Stephen Lipson, thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. I hope I keep producing stuff you like.
Yeah, I hope you do as well. I love films, so there you go. Brilliant, Steve. Great. Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Okay,
All right.
see you again. Bye.
Bye.